Barack Obama was elected 16 years ago. And then 14 years ago, y'all did not come back to give him the Congress he needed. And we have been on a downhill slope ever since. Now, I done told y'all a million times, I am not a party person because I strongly believe political parties are not supposed to be your personality traits. So if you strongly identify as a Democrat, then my apologies to you, baby. Or a Libertarian, or Independent, or a Republican, or a Green Party, or whatever the you identify as, baby, have fun with it, but that's not my bag. I believe that political parties are supposed to be useful tools to find people who are aligned with the policies that you want to see enacted in this country. And therefore, if this person is running under this party, then that means that your beliefs kind of align with mine enough to the point where I am going to vote for you to get this job. And then if you in there up or doing that I don't want you doing, I'm gonna come back and fire your ass the next time you up for re-election. Now, I've been paying attention to politics since I was a child, since the Reagan days. So I have always kind of had a very clear idea on what party was trying to help me and mine and what party legislated in a way that made me and mine's life harder. And throughout my entire life, it has always unequivocally been the Republicans, the GOP. They are always making people's lives harder. And the reason the GOP, Republicans, the reason why they make people's lives harder is because they don't give a about people. They only give a about corporations and profit. They only care about capitalism. When Mitt Romney's reek got himself on TV talking about, well, corporations are people too, that right there should have signaled a lot of y'all to know that the Republicans were never on the side of the people. They are only on the side of profit. And because the Republican Party is majority white, the only people they want to profit is white people. Every piece of legislation that the Republican Party has put forth has only benefited white people or corporations. That's it. Don't argue with me. Go look the up. Meanwhile, on the opposite side of the aisle, the Democrats are always trying to legislate to help the people. Now, do they get it right all the time? No, and I am a witness to that with the 93 crime bill. Now, here's the thing you need to know about the crime bill. We asked for that. Those of us who were living in neighborhoods where you was ducking gunshots every night and stepping over crack vials every day, we wanted that bill. I was in the meetings, baby. I was there with the grandmamas crying and saying that they needed this bill and these legislators needed to do something about these gangs and about these what they call super predators, right? Like their gang violence was out of control in the 90s. So let's not pretend that the crime bill wasn't an attempt to help people, but in turn, it hurt people because they stuck in there that was not beneficial to certain communities, number one. And number two, we didn't know they was going to be locking over nonviolent with weed. Like, that ain't what we talking about. We wanted the crack dealers off the streets. But it takes time for you to feel the effects of legislation, right? So in the 90s, we didn't feel it. But by the 2000s, we realized how this was over people. And so that's why people started looking for legislative change. And you need to adjust this and you need to tweak that and et cetera, right? But that's not my point. Back to the point. Now, when Barack Obama got elected, it shook the GOP in such a way that them started scrambling. They were like, we have to do something because A, they realized that their hold on the lie of white supremacy, that was slipping. They were no longer the easy majority in this country. And so if they didn't do something and fast, we were going to become a country where anybody could have a say on how legislation was written in this country and anybody could have power in this country. Y'all got to remember, a lot of these Republican men had been waiting their whole lives to be elite and to be in a class by themselves and to put themselves in an echelon that nobody else could touch. And then here come Barack Obama and all these black folk right on their heels. It used to be illegal for us to read in this country, but now all of a sudden we on the same playing field as them. You know these was shook. And that's exactly when they all decided to do this hyper partisan bullshit of no matter if it helped everybody in America, they were going to vote against anything that Democrats put forth in legislation. So for the past 16 years, we have been dealing with a Republican Party whose only mission was to make sure that the Democrats failed because the Democrats let a in the White House. And that is why they are all in with Donald Trump, because Donald Trump represents for them a return to the lie of white supremacy. These people want, they want bureaucratically buttressed bigotry to run this country, right? But let me be clear, as I have said a million times before, Donald Trump is not our only problem, because it's like a hydra. You cut off one head and another one pops up. If Donald Trump end up going to jail, they're going to put Ron DeSantis in that slot. And all they want is somebody who is going to pass xenophobic, racist, sexist, bigoted legislation that will continue to oppress anyone who is not a rich, white, heteronormative, Christo-fascist man in this country. That is the goal of the GOP. That is all they want. And that's why they all shucking and jiving right now after this been found guilty of 34 felonies, talking about it's a miscarriage of justice. Why? Why? Because if I promise you, if I had committed them crimes, they wouldn't have a word to say about it. I guarantee you. Republicans also know that y'all don't know how this system works. So that's why they start with all these culture wars and all this nonsense, because what they want to do is discourage you from utilizing the power you actually have to get rid of their. But let me tell you a little secret, baby. The GOP is broke as a joke right now. Republicans have no money. Their state offices are broke. Their Republican National Convention broke. All because they ran behind that damn con man that then rendered they penniless. So now is the time for us to galvanize behind the one party that can actually defeat the Republican Party, get they out of there, and then we can turn around and hold a flame to the feet of the Democrats who are not doing what they said they were going to do for the people. It's a process, y'all. It is a process, and you have to be constant and consistent with it. Voting is a numbers game. That's all it is. Whoever has the most people showing up to vote for their team wins. It ain't got to do with whether or not you like these people. It ain't got to do with whether or not what's right, good, true, and just. It's numbers. And if you don't show up and vote against the GOP, then you are allowing the GOP to continue to have the power over your life that they do. And they have made our lives hard forever. So it is time for us to take back the power from them and exhibit our own power by voting against them. And not just voting against them for anybody, but voting against them for people who will actually beat them. And then we can have discussions about third and fourth and fifth parties, right? Like our legislation does not have to be run under this crazy binary every 4 years if y'all would participate every year. But y'all don't do that. And so now we're in a situation where it's an either or. We didn't have to have an either or. We could have had multiple choice if y'all would have participated. But this is our last shot. This is our last shot to get up from under this stupid binary, because again, the GOP is broke. So if we end the Republican Party in 2024 and in 2026, if we get rid of the GOP in the House, in the Senate, and in the White House, then one, the SCOTUS is going to come back over to being majority liberal, because it will be a long enough time. Alito and Thomas got to get they got to retire at some point. So, that's that, number one. Number two, if we had a Democratic majority in the Senate, we could vote to expand the court and get rid of their majority. So either way, Republicans would be stopped from having a majority to oppress us, and then the people could start functioning in a way where our actual desires are respected by our legislators, and they will do what the we ask them to do when we put them in office, because they know if they don't, we coming back to fire them. That is why I will always and forever yell, vote, ho, and fire the entire GOP, so that we can get to a point where we can have a multitude of legislators to choose from at election time. Vote, ho!